Hello everyone, welcome in for another 4th and Inches video. I have a very exciting one-round NFL mock draft for you today. Spoiler alert, there are 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. There is also a trade-up, spoiler from the title. The Vikings move up to the number 4th pick and get their quarterback of the future, hopefully. Very exciting one, couple curveballs. I hope you guys like it. Please like and subscribe to the video and to the channel 4th and Inches if you do not already. Best way to support it. And before we get started, I just had one thing for you all. So the NFL draft is coming up in just a few weeks. As of today's recording, Monday, April 1st, we're a few weeks out, right? April 25th is when the NFL draft starts. And if you guys are like me at all, I am having an NFL draft party type of situation with some friends of mine and in the fantasy football community. So for those of you that geek out on it enough, just a fun idea. We like to pre-select our picks. So we write down and record and submit our entries prior to the start of the draft. And the most points wins. So essentially, here's what we do. You'll submit your 32 picks. What player names you think will get drafted, but then you can also put the position. And so the max you can get per pick is 2 points. So for example, an obvious one would be Caleb Williams and quarterback at the number 1 overall pick. Boom, easy 2 points. Now, let's say I chose Drake May and quarterback for Washington at 2, but it happens to be Jane Daniels. Well, then I'll only get 1 point. I'll get the point for the quarterback, but not for Drake May being the selection. And the most amount of points wins. It's a very fun way to do it. And, whether you do it for fun or for bragging rights or betting on the side, things like that. But another fun game that you can have at your NFL drafts for night 1 for the first round. And hope you guys like the idea. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's mock draft. Let's go. All right. Well, let's go ahead and kick things off. Not getting too crazy with the first 3 picks. They're going to be pretty stock to what they have been in most mocks. Not doing anything particularly crazy there. It's really just pure selection bias now. I don't see a world where Washington and New England are not taking a quarterback at 2 and 3. But there is a changeup at 4 today, so you'll see that here quickly. Hence, the title gave it away. The Vikings will be trading up. So let's go ahead and get this ball rolling. Obviously, nothing too crazy here. Sticking and picking Caleb Williams at number 1. To quickly touch on that, ideally, the best situation we've seen a number 1 pick go to in recent years. Not only does he have an elite wide receiver and DJ Moore. They just spent a 4th-round pick bringing in Keenan Allen. DeAndre Swift at running back, another great dual threat option there. And, they went left tackle at pick 10, Darnell Wright last year. He's developing quite well, a decent O-line. They could potentially go right tackle at pick 9. We'll see later today. But honestly, a great situation for him to be coming into. They can improve that. If they can improve that pass rush, that'll help as well in Chicago. But not a better situation most number 1 picks go into. Ideally, it's better than Joe Burrow's, certainly better than Baker Mayfield, certainly better than Bryce Young from last year. If there was a reason for a number 1 overall pick to succeed, Chicago's trying to make it happen for him. We're going to go ahead and take Drake May at pick number 2 here. I think he's got the ceiling of being Andrew Luck 2.0. And, there's some Josh Allen comps. Could he develop, solve some of the inaccuracy problems, things like that? I mean, Josh Allen had all those problems, right? His year 1 was not particularly great and depended on his legs a lot more, which is not sustainable in the NFL. But a lot of Drake May believers, I'm one of them, which leaves the New England Patriots at 3. They're never taking J.J. McCarthy, regardless of all the hype he's getting. J.J. McCarthy is perceived as the 4th best quarterback on the board, and thus Jaden Daniels is going to go ahead and stick with the New England Patriots here at pick 3. So, which brings us into pick 4. So we're going to have our first trade, and they are going to be trading with the Minnesota Vikings. When you notice, it prompted them up as the first selection here. Many believe it'll take both of the firsts to get it done, with potentially a 3 for next year, something like that. There could be some additional swaps included as well. But something in this ballpark would get the deal done. We are going to go ahead and force that through. And the Minnesota Vikings in the 2024 NFL Draft have traded up with the Arizona Cardinals to secure pick number 4 and get them a quarterback. Now, yes, they added Sam Darnold, 1-year deal, decent money. Ideally, they get a year out of Sam Darnold. If they can have a winning, competitive season with Sam Darnold under center, it's very ideal. Then there's no forcing to get J.J. McCarthy in. You can keep the crowd and the fan base and the ownership at bay and, not have the barbarians at the gates. The risk of this situation is the complete opposite. Sam Darnold's really underperforming. He's the historical inaccurate quarterback that we've all known him to be. And he underperforms. And by week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8, are the barbarians at the gates calling for J.J. McCarthy to be the new starter? You don't want to force him in earlier than you need to. You want it to be a Pat Mahomes to Alex Smith type of scenario, a Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, maybe not, not drafting a guy in the first round ideally to sit him for 4 years, but then there's no pressure. And we've seen a lot of great success that way. So, but they are going quarterback here, and they are going to be selecting quarterback from Michigan, J.J. McCarthy, a national champion this past year. Which brings us to the Chargers at 5. Now, from the dynasty community, from the fantasy football community, obviously people love the idea of 4 quarterbacks going off the board because that means the Chargers are here at 5, a very wide receiver needy team. Joe Alt has been in this range of picks a lot for obvious reasons. He would be a very, very talented guy that could play at right tackle opposite of Rashawn Slater. Run the ball, keep Herbert protected and healthy, formulate the play actions based off that. But their wide receiver room is in shambles. Mike Williams gets released to save money. Keenan Allen gets traded to the Bears for a 4th-round pick, which I just touched on, to save money. Austin Eckler gets released and goes and signs with the Washington Commanders, again, because of money. So, hole at running back, obviously that's something they can address in the later rounds. But at the wide receiver room, they have Josh Palmer, who couldn't stay healthy last year. And they have Quentin Johnson, who, although opportunity presented itself, was just a huge underperformer. Not it. And, although I think somebody like a Brock Bowers could be in play, this feels like a pick that just has to be a tackle or wide receiver. It going outside of that seems very unlikely. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to you at 5, are you going to pass on an elite talent? And this could be a scenario where it works out quite well for the team. So that's where we're going here. Marvin Harrison Jr., pair him up with the best quarterback he's ever seen in Justin Herbert, and just give Justin Herbert his new number 1 weapon here. The team will still be able to run the ball effectively and address running back in the later rounds. It's also a very talented draft class in terms of offensive line. There are going to be some weapons they can get in the second round. New York Giants now picking at 6. This is a team with no weapons, who had one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the NFL last year, and that's still consistent today. In fact, it could get worse, and it already has gotten worse because they lost their other weapon, their best weapon by far, in Saquon Barkley, going to the Philadelphia Eagles in free agency. Devin Singletary coming in from the Texans as their new running back. Evan Hull's still on that team, a rookie they drafted last year. Darren Waller considering retirement as well, which would mean this team has no weapons, right? Wan'Dale Robinson, a second-round pick from a few years ago, is okay, can't stay healthy. And they brought back a couple of random guys that are just all wide receiver 3s, essentially. So, because the quarterbacks are gone, because they don't necessarily have the bandwidth to trade up and get one, because they're not sure about Daniel Jones. I think Brian Daboll is a great head coach. I'm not sure if Daniel Jones is it. And it was a terrible offense last year. They still have some offensive line struggles too. What's going on with Evan Neal at left tackle? Do they want to try kicking him into guard, which means they would need another left tackle here, all to try to protect Daniel Jones better and have no weapons. Like, it still doesn't make sense. So for those reasons, the pick's wide receiver here. At least give the guy a shot. At least give them a threat they can give some attention to. Stretch the field out a little bit. Get some people out of the box. So we are going to go Malik Neighbors here at pick 6 and give Daniel Jones his new number 1 option. Which brings us to the Tennessee Titans picking at 7. And I think if it played out this way, they are extremely happy. This is 1,000% going to be a smash Joe Alt pick here. And they're going to take him. And here's the reason why. They need a solid left tackle. Have they made some improvements to this team in free agency? Yes. Obviously, Tajay Spears, very comparable running back. But they signed Tony Pollard. They signed Calvin Ridley to a monster deal, $50 million guaranteed, $98 million for 4 years. Obviously, he won't come close to that as it plays out, but more than half guaranteed. And they're going to give Will Levis a shot to succeed here, is what they're going to do, right? If he still fails and looks miserable this year, okay, they're probably back to the drawing board in 2025 or try to get a QB in free agency somehow. But regardless, they got to protect him. Okay, if you saw any of my previous mocks, you heard the joke. Will Levis is Mount Rushmore bad at reading blindside pressure. Okay, that's a funny way of saying it, but he's terrible. He can't feel it to his blindside. He can feel frontside pressure decently well, but not blindside pressure. Peter Skronsky, their first-round pick last year, they're at left guard. I think taking Joe Alt here, shore up that left side of the line, a very talented left tackle, arguably the best in the class, and he could play left tackle for them. DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, Treylon Burks still on this team. Chigo Kwanko is a very solid tight end. I mean, they're going to give the guy a shot to succeed here. Not sure if they're going to be able to get it done in that division, though, but Joe Alt definitely being the pick here. Moving on to the repolished Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, you guys saw Kirk Cousins has now come in at quarterback. They have Kyle Pitts there at tight end. They have Drake London as their wide receiver 1. I think they made some great moves in the wide receiver room as well, signing Darnell Mooney. He'll play in opposite of Drake London. And then they also went and got a slot guy, traded for Rondale Moore from the Arizona Cardinals. So gadgety guy, should be helpful. Just doesn't command a lot of targets, can't stay healthy. A little undersized, but should be a nice scheme to the offense. Obviously, Bijan in the backfield, one of the best running backs in the NFL, and Al-Jair is a nice 1-2 punch to complement him. So this offense is looking great. They had a really solid O-line last year. Although Rome Odunze is on the board, and that's in the realm of possibilities, I don't see it personally. I think this is going to be almost certainly pass rush, big area of opportunity for the team. It could also be defensive line, defensive interior. I think a Jazon Newton could be in play. I think a Leatu Latu's in play here. I think a Byron Murphy's in play here. But we are going to go just full-on pass rush here. And we're going to have our first defensive player coming off the board. And we're going to give them a bit of size here versus just skill. We're going to give them Jared Verse, a little early at pick 8. But give them a bit more size and power in that pass rush on the D-line. I think something that they also desperately need. So Jared Verse going to the Atlanta Falcons at pick 8. Which brings us to the Chicago Bears at pick 9. So obviously Caleb Williams going at 1. Rome Odunze is on the board. Is that in the realm of possibilities? Yes. But I think this is another opportunity for them to continue to improve defensive line as well. They had one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL last year, even with the addition of Montez Sweat. And this is just where, you like Jazon Newton. You like Byron Murphy better. I noticed Jazon's been climbing in ADP here. And to change it up, we'll go ahead and stick with that. So we're going to give them Jazon Newton and improve this defensive interior here for the Chicago Bears. Which brings us to the New York Football Jets at pick 9. Excuse me, at pick 10. Now, they go out and get Mike Williams in free agency from a one-year deal, put him on a one-year deal from the Chargers. I like that addition, gives them some support opposite of Garrett Wilson. I think someone like a Brock Bowers is in play here. I think they have a very good, talented young defense. But I think this is just where I keep coming back to. Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers adds another weapon to Aaron Rodgers. I get it. But here's the bottom line. That O-line was terrible last year. Mekhi Becton no longer with the team, I believe. Elijah Vera Tucker couldn't stay healthy. They now bring in two big boys who are old. I think they're like 31, 32 years old, maybe 33 for Morgan Moses. But they bring in Morgan Moses from Baltimore. They also bring in Tyron Smith, played left tackle for Dallas last year. Okay, these guys are in their early 30s. They also have had a lot of injuries the last couple of years. It seems unlikely you're going to get a 17-game plus, including playoffs if you make it, out of both of them. Is the offensive line better potentially than it was last year? Yes. But I feel like it's only a matter of time before one of those guys goes down. So why not take someone and improve the offensive line, improve the depth, maybe get another starter out of it, and have a guy that can move around? You know, do you have a guy that could play right tackle if Morgan Moses goes down? Do you have a guy that could play left tackle if Tyron Smith gets hurt? A guy that can move in, play some guard when needed? And so that's why I love Talisi Fuaga here. I think he's going to bring some youth to this offensive line. I think he's going to be another piece down the stretch when you need to keep 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers healthy. How old is he now? 42? The guy got hurt on the first drive of the first game of the season last year. And the whole organization was crushed. And you got to keep the guy healthy. So for those reasons, I think this is a smart play. And, you know, if they hadn't brought in Mike Williams, I think it's a little bit different. But I think this is the smartest play here. So taking Talisi Fuaga, very flexible offensive weapon out of Oregon State. Now, Arizona Cardinals, with now the first of their 3 first-round picks, given this simulation. So obviously pick 11, pick 23, which they already had. Getting that from, pick 27 they already had, and that was via the Houston deal from last year. So they acquired pick 23 as well. 23, 11, and 27. Put this rebuilding Arizona Cardinals team into a great situation. So they are on the clock at 11. They need some more help on the offensive line. They need a lot of help on defense. But technically, Rome Odunze is not supposed to be on the board here. Michael Wilson is their only receiver, really. Rondale Moore just got dealt. Greg Dortch is on the team. And Trey McBride being their probably number 1 offensive weapon right now outside of James Conner. So receiver is a huge need. I think if Odunze is on the board at 11, it feels like somebody you just have to take. But they do pick at 23 and 27 also. So if you take situation out for just a second and look at their capital, could they get some good wide receivers at potentially 23 or 27 to help out this team? I believe they could. And so I'm going to take the less obvious route here and not draft Odunze. I'm going to assume they can get some wide receiver help later on, continue to improve that offense. And thus it's shoring up some of the defensive needs. I think Quinyon Mitchell is very much in play here. I think Byron Murphy is extremely in play here. Let's go ahead and take a look at these corners and defensive interior. this is tough. This is a tough pick here. I think if you're thinking impact, I think they're going to shore up some of their corner needs here. And I think this is where we'll have the first corner go off the board. For me, it's Quinyon Mitchell. Absolutely crushed this combine. Very, very talented corner out of Toledo. And actually ran much faster than people expected. Number 1 on most people's boards now. And so Arizona improves that defense, improves that secondary in adding Quinyon Mitchell, and they can get some offensive help down the board here a bit. Which brings us to the Denver Broncos at pick 12. And I think an important thing to remember here for the Denver Broncos is they pick at 12 and they don't pick again until 76. Moving up is probably out of the realm of possibilities. Now, do I think like a Bo Nix is very much in play here? I absolutely do. If there's an opportunity for them to move back, I believe that they would potentially do it. But assuming they're kind of forced into a stick and pick situation, they need a quarterback. They don't have a second round pick. They can't take the risk of someone coming through and then being able to get them. You know, like a Michael Penix, if he made it down that far, I doubt he would. So I think they're going to be forced into a situation where we're going to have 5 quarterbacks go off the board in the first 12 picks. And they're going to take Bo Nix. And that doesn't mean he's a week 1 starter per se, just because he's the 12th pick. You know, you could still see Jarrett Stidham for 5 to 8 weeks, and then Bo Nix get his start, depending on how their team is performing. I think the ideal scenario here is they are not forced to start Bo Nix week 1, similar to the J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold narrative I took you through earlier. Which brings us to the Las Vegas Raiders now on the clock at 13, also a QB-needy team. 5 are off the board. So they're going to have to go somewhere else. They did make some major additions on defense. Secondary is still a need. Linebacker is still a need. Running back and quarterback are not going to be something that they're going to be able to address here. Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams at wide receiver, even though Odunze is on the board. I like Latu. He just doesn't feel like a Raider to me, huh? We're going to go... We're going to go secondary here. I'm actually going to reach down a bit, and I'm going to pull the trigger on Nate Wiggins and improve this Oakland Raiders secondary. It's a pick I'm not sure about. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I can go a few different ways there, but corner is something they need, and you can never have enough depth, and Nate Wiggins is really good. Tested pretty well. Lengthy guy, was a lot of people's number 1 corner coming in until Quinyon Mitchell kind of blew people away in the combine, things like that. But I think Nate Wiggins is a very strong addition to this team. And with them not being able to make a play for a quarterback, there's some identity things that are a little weird there. Don't think receivers in play. I think a tackle could have been, you know, like a J.C. Latham, things like that. They're just trying to roll the dice with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell for a year, kind of bridge the team in a very competitive division. But let me know what you guys think of that pick. So moving on to pick 14, New Orleans Saints. Now, this is interesting because Rome Odunze is never on the board at 14. I don't think he's ever made it this far in any of my mocks. And if you look at the receiver room for New Orleans, okay, obviously Michael Thomas just got cut. They have Rashid Shaheed as kind of like that go route, gadgety guy that they work in some ways. Derek Carr loves to throw the deep ball to him, but mostly a special teams piece. Olave is by far their number 1. Not even close. I can't even think of who another option is there that they would be throwing to that I haven't named. That's relevant. Okay, tight end play. I think a Rome Odunze is very much in play here. I think a tackle is very much in play here. And I think Byron Murphy in the defensive line is very much in play here. But for the sake of changing things up, giving Derek Carr another weapon, I don't mind it. We're going to go ahead and take Rome Odunze at pick 14 here and give Derek Carr another good, very good weapon opposite of Chris Olave. Indianapolis Colts on the clock at pick 15. And it has them showing defensive back, wide receiver as a big need. I agree. But I also think Brock Bowers is in play here. I've had him go in there quite a bit in my mocks at 15. They could use another weapon on offense. I mean, obviously, Michael Pittman, they just extended. Josh Downs is on his rookie deal. JT in the backfield. Anthony Richardson, their first-round pick from last year. I think Brock Bowers is somebody that Shane Steichen would have his eye on. He's a wizard, offensive-minded coach. I don't see this out of the realm of possibilities. I think Brock Bowers or corner are very much in play here. But for the sake of the excitement and a little bias to a fantasy football perspective, Shane Steichen having another desirable offensive weapon like this. We saw how he used Goddard in Philadelphia. Didn't exactly have that tight end skill level with who they had on the roster this past year. Their one tight end had some moments. His name is escaping me at this moment, but we're going to give him Brock Bowers here at 15. And think that Colts offense could be really fun to watch in 2024. And just a better value. I think that's a more appropriate range for a tight end to go. As talented as he is, in the top 10 just feels crazy to me. And there's so many QB-needy teams. Just not seeing it. If we go back and look, obviously it's not happening in the top 5. I mean, maybe Brock Bowers to the Chargers at 5 if Harbaugh's feeling crazy. But when you have MHJ on the board, it just feels like a never. Malik Neighbors. They have Darren Waller unless he retired, but he's not going at pick 6. They have bigger needs. Tennessee, no. Atlanta has Kyle Pitts. Chicago Bears at 9, no. They just have bigger needs, and they have Cole Kmet. He's very solid tight end. The Jets might be in play. The Jets could be a team that's in play, but I gave them the smarter move and giving them more depth on the offensive line, protect Rodgers. Cardinals don't need a tight end. Denver has way bigger needs. The Raiders could do something silly like that and take someone like him, but they have way bigger needs. And with Rome on the board, yeah, I think that's the first one where it really, 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 really makes sense. Hawks at 16. I think they take Leatu Latu here. They also need pass rush. Actually, Dallas Turner's on the board. Although guard and center are a big need, it just doesn't feel appropriate given the talent that's on the board right now. So we're going to go edge rusher, Dallas Turner, and improve that Seattle pass rush. Seattle's a weird team this year for 2024, by the way. Really weird. Geno Smith is still going to be the guy. They bring in Sam Howell to back him up. Not much changes on offense. New coaching regime. Not crazy changes on defense. It feels very weird to me. Jacksonville picks 17. And this really feels like it has to be secondary to me. I think Cooper DeJean stops his slide, and that's where they're going to go and improve this secondary in Jacksonville. And he's a guy that can move around. He can play a lot of different spots. You can put him in the nickel. He can play up top as a safety as needed, potentially. But improve this secondary for a much-needed team, Jacksonville. Cincinnati on the clock at 18. And this is interesting. So assuming T. Higgins hasn't been traded by the time the draft starts, right? They put a tag on him. He requested trade. I don't know if it's going to happen prior to the NFL draft. I think it could actually. I think he's a candidate to get traded during the draft. Could one of these teams here go and offer their first round pick for T. Higgins? They're obviously taking all the money and the cap that would have to be paid to him and potentially a future deal. But then Cincinnati gets a second first round pick, and then they can go both offensive line and receiver. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. I think if Brock Bowers is on the board here, that's interesting. Obviously, he's gone. But they got to protect Joe Burrow. And if I'm looking here, I really like J.C. Latham. And I think that's going to be my pick here and improve that offensive line and keep Burrow protected. But mark that. T. Higgins is one of my top candidates to be a draft day trade. And someone move a first-round pick to go and get him. I don't think a second would get it done. It would have to be a second plus, some other things. So maybe some pick swaps. It would have to be more than a second to get it done, I think. Now, if this actually worked out this way, I think the Rams are happy. Byron Murphy is still on the board. In a lot of mocks, he's not on the board at 19. If that's the case, I think they're taking him here. Yes, tackle could potentially be in play. Continue to shore up. They don't want anybody getting to Stafford. They're the window's closing, similar to that kind of Rodgers take earlier. They got to keep the guy healthy, but they lost Aaron Donald, and I'm not saying that he is an Aaron Donald replacement by any means. I don't think anybody can replace Aaron Donald, but they need to improve that defensive interior. And Sean McVay's so good at drafting talent. Puka Nacua, they got in the 6th, 7th round last year. Saw what he is. So don't have to force some of the team needs when they draft so well. I'm going to take Byron Murphy here. Arguably the first, if not second best talent at the position on the board. Pittsburgh at 20. I think they're a team that could be a T. Higgins candidate, right? Think about it like this. They go and offer pick 20 for T. Higgins straight up. That could be a situation Cincinnati takes. It definitely could. But let's go ahead and assume they can't get it done. Actually, no. Let's have some fun with it. Let's do it. Let's assume they can get it done. We are going to go to the Bengals. And they're going to trade T. Higgins here. I'm sure there would be a bit more on top of it, but let's just make it happen. Boom. Okay. So something like T. Higgins and a future pick, T. Higgins and some pick swaps, some things like that to get the deal done. But this is possible. So Pittsburgh Steelers land their wide receiver 1. Yes, their wide receiver 1 in T. Higgins. George Pickens is not going to be the 1 anymore, guys. Debate me in the comments. But then they have George Pickens 2. And Deontay Johnson, we know, just got moved to the Carolina Panthers. So things like this could make sense. They're going to try to give Russ Justin Fields a shot here. Obviously a well-coached team in Mike Tomlin, but defensive-minded coach. This team hasn't been able to get the offensive line right. But something like that's possible. Could it be that interesting spark, for the Steelers? Now, they're typically very historically good at drafting and developing wide receivers, and then when they leave Pittsburgh is kind of where their careers go to die. Hopefully that doesn't happen to Deontay Johnson, but Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant. The list goes on. But if that happened, I think they could go and add someone like a Brian Thomas Jr. here. So now they're resetting the clock at wide receiver. They're getting someone who can simulate what that contribution was of a T. Higgins, the big body, stretch the field guy, opposite of Jamar Chase. And they now don't have to pay $22-something million for a franchise tag or have to fuss around with the contract needed, right? The money. And it would only be to have T. Higgins one more year, right? If it was for a Super Bowl run, maybe, but you know, and then they can give Jamar Chase his money, you know, this year. I could see something like that happening. Miami Dolphins on the clock at pick 21 now. Offensive line, defensive interior. That's interesting. I think this is going to be O-line here. I like Washington's Troy Fautanu. He's got guard experience as well. They need a lot of help on the O-line right now. I think that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go right Troy Fautanu here. And improve and try to keep Tua from getting another concussion. Too soon? Sorry, Dolphins fans. Pick 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. Interesting that they have wide receiver listed as a need. I'm not sure I completely agree with that. Linebacker, defensive back. Now, I went corner in my last mock here, but they also just, I believe it just got announced that Hassan Reddick will be leaving this team. So, it's a team that can never have too much pass rush, too much linebacker support. I think this is a nice Leatu Latu. I think some corners could be in play here. Terrion Arnold. But I mean, that secondary was horrible last year. I had an Eagles fan telling me, like, they're just going to, like, with the changes they made in free agency, like, they're not going to go there, but it feels like they need to. And if Terrion Arnold is on the board here, it feels really hard to pass up. I think someone like a Jackson Powers Johnson's in play here too. You know, guard and center support, help replace Jason Kelce. That's actually where I'm going to go here. I'm telling you, I think Leatu Latu and some of these corners are in play, but the Eagles fans keep rousing me. So we're going to go JPJ here and see if he can run the tush-push as well as Jason Kelce used to. Which brings us back to the Arizona Cardinals at 23. And I think if Leatu Latu's on the board here, I think they're taking him. Another defensive piece to go in addition to Quinyon Mitchell that they took up above at pick 11. And they can go receiver 4 picks later at 27, guys. I know you're going to say it. They need a receiver. They need a receiver. You've now had 2 first-round picks and not taken one. That's because there's going to be some here. You know, if Brian Thomas Jr. is on the board there, maybe. But there's some really good weapons that you can get down here at 27. Dallas on the board with a lot of needs. Tyron Smith left in free agency. They didn't really sign anyone. They have some needs on defense. I think Terrion Arnold is in play here. But they're not going to be able to do anything if they can't run the ball and they can't protect Dak Prescott. And they need to replace Tyron Smith as well. I think Amarius Mims is a solid pick. I think Olu Fashanu is probably the pick here. It's a guy that can bounce around, play different, and they need that. They lost players in free agency and did not replace them. So we are going to protect Dak, add Olu Fashanu here to the Dallas Cowboys at pick 24. Green Bay on at 25. Just an exciting team to watch these days, huh? Just an exciting franchise. But I think this is a smash pick for Terrion Arnold here. I think Tyler Nubin could be in play at safety as well. And I'm going to change it up a little bit. I am going to go Tyler Nubin here and give them some more help over the top. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 26. And I'm not going to mess around with this pick too much. They do need a lot of help, but if you have a corner like Terrion Arnold still on the board here, it's a smash take. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Terrion Arnold honestly shouldn't be on the board at 26 anyway, so we'll have to go back through and take a look at that. Which brings us to the Arizona Cardinals and their third pick of the first round. Some people like A.D. Mitchell. Some people like Ladd McConkey. I don't think they're going to be the picks here. I see Ladd more as a nice very end of the first, if not second round pick addition. Same with like a Ricky Pearsall, Roman Wilson. Who I do think is in the realm of possibilities here, kind of like that Hollywood Brown replacement, is a Troy Franklin. And that's who I'm going to take here at pick 27. Phenomenal speedster wide receiver out of Oregon. Wish he had tested a little better on a couple things at the combine, but his tape is great. Played well with Bo Nix up in Oregon. And Arizona needs a fast field stretching type guy. And not that he's a field stretching wide receiver only. Like he can do a lot. But opposite of Michael Wilson. And give Kyler Murray another weapon to help rebuild this team. Buffalo on the clock. Pick 28. Got crushed in the free agency. You know, money problems. Lost Jordan Poyer. Lost, forgetting his name right now. They did bring in some things, but I think Kool-Aid McKinstry could be the pick here. I think a Peyton Wilson is also in play. But we're going to give them some additional secondary help and draft Kool-Aid McKinstry. Detroit Lions at pick 29. Now, they did re-sign Graham Glasgow, so that helped. I don't think offensive line is going to be the pick here, even though there are some great choices. Zach Frazier could be a great pick here. Guy that can play center, guy that can play guard. I think Graham Barton is also one of those. I'm going to change it up here a little bit and sneak a guy into the first round that I haven't been. Edge rusher is in a need, opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to sneak in for the first time here, Chop Robinson into the end of the first round. Great talent. Arguably the third best pass rusher on the board behind only Jared Verse and I wanted to say Terrion Arnold, but that's wrong. Help me out, guys. Dallas Turner. Behind both at Alabama. Behind Jared Verse and Dallas Turner. Pick 30, the Baltimore Ravens. Final 3 picks here. And they just lost Morgan Moses. So if they can get Amarius Mims down here at pick 30, I think they do it. Tyler Guyton could also be in play. Graham Barton. But we're going to go ahead and give them Amarius Mims here and get that Morgan Moses replacement, who just signed with the New York Football Jets. San Fran. It feels like Tyler Guyton here. I'm not sure. Yes, Graham can go in and play some guard, but an aging offensive line. They don't have Mike McGlinchey there anymore. I'm going to go ahead and take Tyler Guyton. And this San Francisco 49ers team is going to try to run it back. If something happens with Brandon Ayuk in the next couple weeks, okay, that could be a wide receiver pick, sure. Kansas City Chiefs. Now, they are very good at drafting and developing corners. Not first-round corners either. You know, L'Jarius Sneed, Trey McDuffie was, but L'Jarius Sneed, I believe, was a third-round pick. So, like, they're confident in that. Okay, now L'Jarius Sneed, they had tried to tag. He now gets traded to the Tennessee Titans, and they pay him a bunch of money. So someone like a TJ Tampa is in play here. You know, they go out and get Hollywood Brown. They have Rashee Rice, who now is having some troubles off the field, it seems like. We'll see what happens with that car incident story. And then they have tackle listed as a need. I think Graham Barton is a great pick here. But for the sake of keeping it Jordan Morgan's on the board still, too. It sucks because the Chiefs are probably going to win another Super Bowl, but I think they're going to pad their secondary here. I think they can get a receiver at pick 64. Let's see what picks they have. 64, 95, and then they got some later ones. We're going to take TJ Tampa here. Add to the secondary. Add some replacements, talent that you can continue to develop, and get a L'Jarius Sneed replacement. Okay. That is it. There it is. Round 1 mock draft. Changed it up a bit. Hope you guys like the trade up of the Vikings there. Some guys fell. Some guys were reached on a little bit earlier than normal. Changed it up today a little bit on purpose. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know, guys, what you liked. Let me know what you disliked. If you're a particular fan of one of these teams, I would love to hear your insight. Leave a comment down below. But yeah, otherwise, guys, there's another video from 4handInches. Like and subscribe if you have not already. It's the best way to support the channel. And yeah, more videos coming out. Stay tuned, everybody. Take care.